Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. And I've put together the top 7 key market drivers I look at when analyzing a real estate market. Go to sethferguson.org to download your free copy. Our guest today has been investing in raw, undeveloped land for almost 20 years and has completed over 5,000 transactions. He's also the host of the Land Geek Podcast. Mark Podolsky is the Land Geek. Mark, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Seth Ferguson, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, really looking forward to this. And like I was telling you offline, we don't have very many land guys on the show. And this is a really interesting niche that, I'd like to talk a lot more about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've got 2 other podcasts. The second one is the Best Passive Income Model podcast. And the current one is the Art of Passive Income podcast. And so I'm all about, guess what? Passive income.
It's the best thing out there. Well, maybe there's a couple things a little better than passive income, but we'll keep the show for kids.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's kick things off. Tell us about your real estate goals right now and where you'd like to go with real estate.
So, right now, I kind of look at myself as a conductor. And the conductor just really manages the symphony. And that's what I'm doing, is I'm really just managing my team. So I work 2 hours a week in Frontier Properties. And really that's sort of my job, is how can I make it so I have no job? And now that we have these systems and the processes and the automation, because literally with software now, we have our own proprietary software. I created my own back-end software called geekpay.io to manage the notes, the passive income piece. It's really just getting that better and better and better. And then a lot of my job is thinking and just kind of just being and reading and digesting and then thinking and taking a long walk and, oh, wait, what if we do this? And then breaking something. So God forbid you're on my team. I've had my morning coffee and you get a call from me because oh, great. Mark's breaking something now. I'm used to doing it this way. Now we're going to have to do it this way.
Yeah. And so with your business, you're conducting it. Do you have targets in terms of growth? Like, do you say, I want to grow X amount this year or do so many transactions a year?
I really don't. I know that KPIs are the thing du jour. But for me personally, I'm kind of at the point where I have enough. So my passive income is about 50 times what it needs to be, and for my living expenses. So I have basically generational wealth. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's really more that where's the joy? Is this still fun? And I really feel like KPIs kind of can sap the joy out of it, because Seth, I can only control what I can control. I can't control if the market changes. I can't control if we have a good month or a bad month. So for me, the KPIs kind of sap the joy out of it. I really am embarrassed to say I don't look at almost any analytics. The only analytics I care about is how many offers did we send out this week? How many deals are pending? How many deals did we close? And as long as we're putting in the right amount of effort, great. The things that we can control are really what I care about. Everything else that I can't control, I don't stress about.
Yeah. And so it sounds like your system's running like a final oiled machine until you break things. What was it like when you first got started? Because, the team wasn't there. I'm assuming it was you on your own.
Yeah, it was. So when I first started, I was a very unhappy, micromanaged, stressed out, 45-minute commute to work and back investment banker working with private equity groups in mergers and acquisitions. And Seth, it got so bad for me, I wouldn't get the Sunday blues anticipating Monday coming around. I'd get the Friday blues anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. So my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me that as a side hustle, he's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar, at tax deed auctions. He's flipping them online. and he's making a 300% return on his investment. Well, I'm looking at companies all day long, and a great company has a 15% EBITDA margin or free cash flow. Average companies 10%. And I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So of course I don't believe him. And we go to New Mexico. I got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I do exactly what he says. I buy up 10 half-acre parcels at an average price of $300 each. And I put them up online, and they all sell for an average price of over $1,200 each. 300%. It worked. So I took all that money and went to another auction where I live in Arizona. And again, this is 2000. There's no one in the room. I'm buying up lots. I'm buying up acreage. And over the next 6 months, I sold all that property, and I made over $90,000 cash. So I go to my wife. I'm like, honey, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to become a full-time land investor. And she says, absolutely not. She's pregnant at the time. So I said, fine. So I worked the land investing business part-time. It took about 18 months for the land investing income to exceed the investment banking income. And then I quit. And I've been doing it full-time ever since. And those early days, really, I was just, I didn't know it at the time. One of my biggest mistakes was not having a mentor. So I just, took one really big pain point in my life and got rid of that. So I'm like, okay, now I don't have a job. But what I didn't realize was I still have solo economic dependency, which means if I wasn't working, I wasn't going to make any money. So if I wasn't looking for the properties, if I wasn't putting up the ads, if I wasn't talking to the potential buyers and sellers, nothing was happening. I just created a new job for myself, a better job, but still a job. And so it wasn't until I, had a mentor kind of tell me like, Mark, you're having fun and you're making money and you're doing great, but you're a slave. You're a slave to this business. And one day you're going to wake up and you're not going to want to be a slave anymore. It's like, so if you want to be a freelancer, great. But don't tell me you're an entrepreneur, because you're not. Yeah. An entrepreneur builds something bigger than themselves. You should be able to die tomorrow, and that company should still be able to run. And as soon as you said that, it took about 5 years to build the systems, the processes, and everything I needed so that today I can die and the company will be just fine.
Yeah. And so many beginner real estate investors, it doesn't matter which type of asset class you're in, they always seem to want to do everything on their own when they first get started because it's their baby. And it's almost, you almost have to pull them into building those systems. And one of the books I always recommend is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Great book. So hey, can you walk us through your mindset and how you went about creating those systems? Because I think the way you have it set up now is almost like the ideal scenario.
I mean, my mindset was just, can I have the discipline every single day to find people better than me? And can I have the humility to have that faith that, look, I'm not special and I just have more reps than somebody else. And if I create the system and I create the process and they get the reps like I have, they'll be able to do it just as well, if not better than me. Mm-hmm. And that was my mindset. And a lot of times I would, channel at that time would be, Steve Jobs. And I was like, well, what is Steve Jobs doing today? Well, he's not coding. He's not in the stores. He's being the conductor. He's essentially creating something that's bigger than himself and hiring these really talented people and creating that vision. And that's it. And that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And what would you say is your number one challenge right now in your business today?
For me, the number one challenge is staying patient. So I'm impatient with actions, but I want to be patient with the results. So, but I'm not patient with the results. Like, just like everybody else, I want it now.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I can be a little hard on the team when I don't need to be. Mm-hmm. And that can have, consequences, because you want people to be as enthusiastic about, the mission and helping people, acquire this asset just as much as you. But if you're telling them, hey, sell, and this and that, then it again saps the joy out of it. So I think for me, it's just that mental challenge of just being very zen and letting go of everything, really, just kind of letting go. And I have a challenge with that. I'm kind of control freak.
Yeah. And so have you developed any routines and rituals then that have made you a successful investor?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to sound woo woo, but I meditate every day. And I think with that training of being able to watch my thoughts and see the ones that are helpful, see the ones that are unhelpful, and just I'm looping, really allows me to sort of filter out a lot of the noise and then just be completely in reality. And when I'm doing that, then I'm just very neutral about any deal. I'm not emotional. I'm not high about it. I'm not low about it. I'm like, okay, here's a deal. We're going to make 800 to 1,000%, and that's great. Let's do that deal. Another deal, look, it's too complicated, and we're gonna have to do a probate deal. Like, deals are like the bus. Let's just pass. There'll be another one down the pike. And so I think that's really helped me be a very disciplined, more calm investor.
Yeah. What got you into meditation? Because, a lot of people now on the show, say meditation makes a big impact, but what introduced you to it?
I think my first introduction was a buddy gave me a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I'm like, this is weird. And I liked the book, and I thought, oh wow, this is interesting. And then it was just kind of in the air. And everywhere I'd look, I'd listen to a podcast, and sure enough, Ray Dalio would be on that podcast, and he's like, I do transcendental meditation, and then someone else would be on the podcast. I do meditation. I do mindfulness meditation, and somehow I found Sam Harris. I think it was Tim Ferriss actually that interviewed him. I'm like, okay, this is my guy, and I downloaded the Waking Up app. And that was really great. And I've been doing Headspace for a long, long time. But then once I got the Waking Up app, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal.
Yeah. I haven't jumped on the wagon yet, but I think I should, because so many people say it makes such a big difference.
It really is the game changer in life, because anything external that happens, you're kind of cool with. Because internally you're so calm and you're so at ease, and you can just see things more clearly because you're not caught up in your own internal drama or thoughts or feelings and making judgments about them. There just are. And it's really an incredible state when you get to it. Now, that being said, when you first start, it's pretty miserable, because now all of a sudden you're aware of how crazy you are. And so you got to stick with it every day. The consistency, even 3 minutes a day, is better than nothing. And then you get to a point where you have that sort of they call it a satori, like you just feel like this amazing peace, and you just want to, not that should be like, and that's the other thing, is like, you don't want to create a goal with anything. You just be. And it's really great. One of my favorite philosophers is J. Krishnamurti. If you're ever in the mood, because honestly, I've been reading him and I get about 10% of it, but that 10% is brilliant. And, here it was like this awakened, enlightened guy, and doing these speeches, and you don't get it until you've done meditation long enough. And then, oh my gosh, you get it. And that really can help fortify your practice as well.
Yeah, no, I'll, you know what? I should download the app, the Waking Up app, today, and I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, you'll love it. And listen to his little diatribes as well. He'll talk about reality, and he'll talk about gratitude, and he'll talk about and just puts all these things in perspective. And he's got one of these great sort of slow voices that, in a way, sort of hypnotize you too.
Yeah,
and it's great. Yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Well, thanks for that. So let's talk about a Keystone deal. So a deal that made a big impact on you and your business. Is there one that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite deal is a very complicated deal, because it really took me so far out of my comfort zone. I had to borrow $1 million to do the deal. I was dealing with a public company. I was negotiating, and then I had to go into subdividing and never subdivided anything. I had to work with surveyors in the county. So all these things put together, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I just did it anyways. I thought, well, this, someone can do it. Why not me?
Yeah.
So I bought these sections of land from the railroad. I subdivided them into 40-acre parcels, and over the 5 years, I made about $5 million on just that one deal.
Nice. And how did you source a deal? Did you go directly to the railroad, or?
Yeah, for that one, it was a complicated deal because essentially the railroad had sold off their parcels to Morgan Stanley, and then Morgan Stanley then sold off a bunch of parcels to this public company that was interested only in the water rights and the mineral rights. So I went in, I said, look, you've got all this land you don't want. It was a spreadsheet deal for them. I was buying it $30-$50 an acre and selling it at $500-$600 an acre.
Nice. And so when you saw the opportunity, what jumped off the page at you? What was it? Was it, hey, the price point, or was it location? Like, what was the big blinking green light saying go?
It was really the price point. I knew the market. I'd already sold properties in that area, and here's my opportunity to buy just a boatload of it at this super cheap price. And in real estate, we make our money on the buy. And I wasn't afraid. I was afraid of the debt load, but I wasn't so afraid because I could spreadsheet it out and say, well, what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah.
And it wasn't so bad.
Yeah. And, we have lots of different asset classes on the show. And people will talk about, the financing side. Somebody might be wondering, how do you do these land deals? Because traditionally a lender doesn't want to finance the deal, right? So how do you make things happen?
I mean, a lot of people think that these are huge deals. These aren't $1 million deals. I think our average deal size is $5,000. So in the beginning, I was self-funded. I had a big enough track record where I could just go to people and raise debt. Mm-hmm. If I'm making 300 to 1,000%, the debt really is inconsequential. I could borrow at 2%, 5%, 8%, 10%. Yeah. So it didn't really matter. And so I can kind of walk you through the model if you like.
Yeah, let's go for it. Because I'm sure there's lots of people listening right now, and they're curious.
So Seth, where do you live?
I'm just outside of Toronto in the Great White North, but most of the audience is in the U.S.
Okay, so you're in Toronto.
Yeah.
And let's say that you bought 10 acres in Texas a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And then I contact the county treasurer and say, oh, there's Seth Ferguson. He lives in Toronto, but he also hasn't paid his taxes on that property. He owes $200 in back taxes. Mm-hmm. Essentially, you're advertising two things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to that raw land. It's in Texas. You're in Canada. And number two, you're distressed financially in some way, because when we don't value something in the same way, we don't pay for it. And you haven't paid your property taxes. So what I'll do is I'll look at the comparable sales on that 10-acre parcel in Texas for, let's say, the last 12 to 18 months. And then all I'm going to do is divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm taking the lowest comp and dividing by 4. So let's just say that the lowest comp is 10 grand. So I send you an actual offer for $2,500. Again, my philosophy being I can always make more money. I can't get more time. I don't want to be in the negotiating business saying I want to buy your land. Then you call me and say, I'm interested in selling my land. And now we're negotiating. I actually send you an offer for $2,500. You accept it because all this time you've been getting notices from the county treasurer, Seth, if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to lose that property to a tax deed or tax lien investor. So you accept it. Now, in reality, 3 to 5% of people accept our quote unquote top dollar offer. Now I'm going to go through due diligence or in-depth research. I got to confirm you still own the property. Back taxes are only $200. There's something compelling about the property. There's no breaks in the chain of title. There's no liens or encumbrances. And so I go to my team in the Philippines. We pay $11 for due diligence. They're tapped into an American title company. They provide this report for me. We check off all the boxes. Everything checks out. Now I buy it from you for $2,500. Now I've got a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
Who would it be?
The neighbors.
Perfect.
So I go to the neighbors and say, hey, here's your opportunity. Before I go to the open market, protect your privacy, expand your holdings, protect your views. Oftentimes the neighbors will buy it for 10 grand. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyers list. My buyers list passes, I'll go to a little website you probably never heard of called Craigslist, 10th most trafficked website in the US. I'll also go to Facebook buy sell groups and marketplace. And then I'll go to the lands. There's just these huge platforms that people buy and sell land, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landmodo.com, so landhub.com, landflip.com. There's a bunch of them. So I'm going to sell this property 30 days or less. And the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to make it irresistible. So I'm going to ask for a $2,500 down payment. So I want to get my capital out right away, or maybe I'll go out 6 months. And then I'll just make it a car payment. Let's say $449 a month at 9% interest over the next 84 months. So now I've sold this asset and I've gotten my money out. And now I'm getting a passive income of $449 a month at 9% for the next 84 months. Seth, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. Because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, and the SAFE Act, these onerous real estate legislations. And then the game I play is, can I create enough of these land notes where the passive income exceeds my fixed expenses? And then I'm working because I want to, not because I have to.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful system.
Thank you.
So let's look ahead. So maybe 10 years from now, where do you see yourself with your business going?
Well, I really love the business, but I also love helping people. So really for me, it's about how many people can I unplug from the matrix? And there's nothing more gratifying for me. Like, I'll give you an example. Nobody's ever said to me, hey, Mark, you changed my life with helping me buy this piece of raw land. Now, I have had so many people, their spouses were able to quit their jobs so they could spend more time with their family. They were able to replace their income. They were able to kind of just work when they want, where they want, with whom they want, because of this land investing model. And, you know, with tears in their eyes, they're like, hey, I'm doing things I was never able to do before because I have so much time. And that for me is really what motivates me every single day to get better at this. So as long as I keep getting better as a land investor and looking at more efficient, effective methods and testing, I can then take that knowledge and help other people utilize it as well. And then from there, I love the software that I'm creating. So I've scratched my own itch with geekpay.io. I created my own proprietary software that automates the front end of the business. Like what used to take me basically, you know, hours and hours of sending out offers takes a second. And what also used to take 30 minutes of paperwork takes a second. So again, I'm saving so much time with software so I can do the things I really want to do in life.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. So many investors, like they just concentrate on that time freedom aspect. And because we're all running out of time, we just don't know when the clock's going to stop.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, this has been great. So if somebody's looking to reach out, learn more about what you're doing, maybe your software, your podcast, where can they find you?
I think the best place to go is thelandgeek.com. And we have a $97 course called the Passive Income Launch Kit. I'd like to offer your listeners that for free. So
beautiful.
Just go to thelandgeek.com/launch kit. They can get it for free.
Awesome. Well, no, thanks so much for taking the time, sharing your system, and sharing the stories and all the advice.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Seth.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And thank you, our viewers. And I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.